France built the strongest defense in Europe. Reinforced concrete, underground systems, guns already aimed. It was designed to stop a war before it could even begin. And when the war came, it never touched it. France doesn't just build a line. It builds a system designed to control where the war can happen. Underground, reinforced structures stretch across the border. Not isolated bunkers, but connected positions, linked by tunnels, power, and internal supply routes. Inside, everything is already decided. Artillery is fixed in place, with every range calculated in advance. Machine gun positions overlap, removing any blind approach. Nothing is left to reaction. Everything is prepared beforehand. Soldiers don't wait in open terrain. They operate inside the structure, protected, supplied, and coordinated from within. The system doesn't depend on movement. It depends on stability. If an attack comes, it doesn't need to adapt. It absorbs. Years pass as it expands and solidifies. More sectors, more guns, more reinforcement. What starts as a defensive line becomes something else. A controlled environment, closed, predictable, ready. By the time it is completed, there is no uncertainty in its design. Every approach is covered, every angle accounted for. Everything is prepared for the war they expect. And because of that, there is only one place the war is supposed to happen: here. And so they wait. The system is no longer being built. It is active, fully manned, and operating exactly as it was designed to. Guns are loaded, positions are occupied, and communication lines run continuously beneath the surface. Inside the bunkers, everything functions with precision. Soldiers move through tunnels, checking sectors, maintaining equipment, and repeating routines that assume one thing: when the war comes, it will arrive here. Nothing is missing. Nothing is exposed. Every element of the system is in place, prepared to respond the moment pressure appears on the line. But nothing comes. There is no artillery fire, no visible movement, no indication that the enemy is approaching the positions that were so carefully calculated and defended. The sectors remain untouched, and the structure holds in a state it was never truly designed for, waiting without impact. Days pass, and then more. The system continues to function, but without being tested. It was built to absorb force, to stop and advance, to control a direction of movement that never materializes. Everything about it assumes a single scenario: that war moves forward, through the line, into the system, into the space where every response has already been prepared. But outside that system, the war is already taking shape, and it is not moving toward the line. It is moving around it. Inside the strongest defense in Europe, nothing changes. It is moving around it. To the north, beyond the reinforced sectors, movement begins in a place that was never meant to carry an attack. German units enter the Ardennes. The terrain is narrow, forested, and restrictive. It slows movement, compresses columns, and limits coordination. But they move anyway. Convoys stretch for kilometers, advancing through roads that should not support them. Vehicles slow, regroup, and continue forward without stopping. This is not hesitation. This is a decision. They are not testing the line. They are avoiding it. No artillery prepares the ground. No assault hits the defenses. The system is not engaged. It is bypassed. Every kilometer forward shifts the war away from the line and into a space that was never designed to stop it. Reports begin to arrive, but they do not fit the expectation. The movement does not look like an attack, and without impact, there is nothing to respond to. Inside the system, nothing changes. Outside, everything is already moving past it. And by the time the direction becomes clear, the war is already behind the line. And by the time the direction becomes clear, the war is already behind the line. Reports begin to arrive, but they don't align. Units are moving faster than expected. Positions are being bypassed. Contact is happening in areas that were never meant to hold. At first, it doesn't make sense. The line is intact. Nothing has been broken. Nothing has been engaged. But the map no longer reflects what is happening. Orders are issued to reposition. Units are redirected toward a threat that is no longer in front of them, and the response begins to collide with itself. Roads fill with movement. Columns overlap. Units advancing and units retreating begin to use the same route. Time compresses. Decisions are made with incomplete information. Adjustments arrive too late to affect what has already moved past. What was designed as controlled defense becomes fragmented reaction. There is no single front. There is no stable line. Only scattered contact, shifting positions, and a system trying to respond to something it cannot contain. Inside the fortifications, everything still works. Outside, control is already gone. The line remains armed, operational, ready, but it is no longer relevant. And when the system finally begins to react, there is nothing left to stop. And when the system finally begins to react, there is nothing left for it to stop. The line is still there, exactly as it was designed to be. The fortifications remain operational, the guns are in position, and the communication networks continue to function without interruption. Inside, nothing appears to have changed. Soldiers remain at their posts, following routines built around a threat that is no longer in front of them. Orders continue to circulate, systems are maintained, and the structure operates as if it is still waiting for impact. But that moment never comes. Nothing has been destroyed. The defenses have not been breached. There is no visible failure in the system itself, and yet the war has already moved past it. It is no longer approaching the line. It is unfolding behind it. Units outside the fortifications begin to collapse or withdraw, cut off from a system that cannot support them from that direction. The structure holds its position, but its position no longer defines the battlefield. It was built to stop an advance, to absorb pressure, to control a direction of movement that no longer exists. There is no engagement, no test of strength, no moment where its design is ever used, only a system that continues to function. In a war, it can no longer influence. The strongest defense in Europe remains standing, fully armed, fully operational, and completely intact, and completely irrelevant. Chapter 6. The Real Mistake. Version Narrativa Fluida. The Maginot Line did not fail because it was weak. It failed because it was right about the wrong war. Everything in its design assumed that conflict would move forward in a predictable way. That pressure would come from the front, and that strength in one direction would be enough to control the outcome. And for that scenario, it was nearly perfect. But the war did not follow that logic. It did not confront the system. It moved around it, changed direction, and redefined where the battlefield actually existed. The line did exactly what it was built to do. It held its position. What it could not do was adapt to a war that refused to meet it on those terms. And that is where the real mistake was. Not in the construction, not in the execution, but in the assumption that the next war would behave like the last one. Because, in the end, the strongest defense in Europe was not destroyed. It was simply left out of the war entirely.